Hey everybody, Breakthrough Health and Life Coach Glenn Hattem here. I'm here with my good buddy Steven Sashen, and we are about to get underway with an incredible conversation. So if you got a notepad handy and a pen, you will get some nuggets of wisdom from this conversation. We're going to be talking a little bit today with Steven about how he got started, how he ended up in this unique place with an extraordinary company called Xero Shoes that, as you can see behind him, they have something to do with the shoe industry. And your feet and actually having continue to have exceptional feet as you go through life. And we'll get into the science of that in a minute, but I just want to introduce Steven, and maybe Steven, tell everybody a little bit more about who you are, what you're up to in the world, and then we can, I like the time track back in time and kind of tell the story how we got here and maybe some of the lessons learned.
Oh, that was a whole lot to unpack. First of all, thanks. Hi, welcome. And so I've never had a job. I've never had a resume. I've never applied for a job. I've only started things. And so Xero Shoes started 12 and a half years ago after I had gotten back into sprinting after a 30-year break when I was 45 and was getting injured pretty much constantly for about the next 2 years. And a friend of mine who's a world champion runner, which in Boulder, of course, means, your neighbor because they're everywhere. He said to me, try running barefoot and see if you learn anything. Now, quick detour. I'm not going to suggest you run barefoot. It did change my life, but I'm not suggesting you do it. So, but what happened when I got out of regular padded motion controlled elevated heel shoes, things that look like this, is I could feel that I had a form problem, and it naturally corrected itself, because basically when you're running barefoot, doing it wrong hurts and doing it right feels great. And so I wanted that natural movement experience, but I knew I couldn't get around barefoot everywhere in town. The only place, this is going to be funny, the biggest place I've ever been hassled about being barefoot is Whole Foods, of all things. Costco, they don't care. In fact, I was in Costco a little while ago. When I'm wearing shoes, I wear mismatched colors just to get attention. And there's a guy behind me at the pharmacy line, and he goes, "Hey, your shoes don't match." And without looking up or missing a beat, the pharmacist goes, "He's wearing shoes?" So they never hassle me. Whole Foods hassle me, but I didn't want the hassle. So I started making
Walmart won't give you shit for anything you're wearing.
Well, the joke in Whole Foods, I said, "Well, what's the problem?" They said, "Well, you could step on something." I said, "What about the actual dogs that are walking around without shoes?" I mean, my line is Whole Foods is a place, at least in Boulder, where it's not okay to be in bare feet, but it's okay if you're breastfeeding your dog. So,
True.
I'm,
True.
I know. So I made a pair of sandals basically based on a 10,000-year-old design idea, something to hold some protection for your foot, a little bit of rubber, something to hold that on your foot, some cord from Home Depot. That was it. That's what human beings were doing for tens of thousands of years. And so I did the same. And people said, "Hey, I want a pair of those." And they told two friends, and they told two friends. And one day a guy says to me, "If you had a website for this sandal making hobby of yours, I could put it in a book that I'm writing." And so I rush home. I pitched this incredible opportunity to my wife, because I've been an internet marketer since like 1992. And she assured me that it was a really dumb idea that wouldn't make any money. And it was just one of my ADD distractions. And so I told her I wouldn't do it. And then after she went to bed, I built a website, and it just took off. And so we were selling a do-it-yourself sandal making kit when we launched at the end of 2009. And now we have a complete line of casual and performance boots, shoes, and sandals people use for everything from taking a walk to running ultra marathons. And the way I describe what we do is I ask people, I said, "Do your feet feel better at the end of the day than they did at the beginning of the day? Because if not, you're not wearing these things." Because we have hundreds of customers from Xero Shoes who said not only do they not take their shoes off when they get home, but they've sometimes gotten into bed still wearing them because they forgot they had them on. So that's where we are. And we're a rapidly growing company. We've been on the Inc. 5000 6 years in a row. We'll be in it again this year as well. We've won a whole bunch of fastest growing company in various area awards. And look at there, Glenn in a pair of our sandals, our Z
Originals. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the short form, medium form.
Yeah. That hopefully everyone took notes on that. So,
notes, my God, what's there to take notes on? Don't get a job. Don't apply for a job.
I think that's probably like maybe not the folks the wisdom your folks are going to get to you, but after you get past that, that's the wisdom of, like, if you really want to get out in the world, don't take a job. start steering
Well,
yourself.
look, I got a different take on that. And first of all, the real joke I have is when we started this, we uttered what I call the 5 dangerous entrepreneurial words. How hard could this be? And the answer is mind-blowingly.
Mind blowing.
This is really, really hard. And the thing I say when people ask me for advice, I go, get a government job with a pension. And they're like, what? I go, get a government job with a pension. You get days off, you get weekends, you're working 9 to 5, you don't take your work home with you. It's a great gig. And if that makes you kind of go, then you definitely should try and get a government job with a pension. But quote, real entrepreneurs, you can't talk them out of their usually stupid idea no matter what you say. And I say usually stupid because most of them are. If you hit one that starts to work, I also say what's gotten us to where we are today is 90% luck. And the other 10% is also luck. And then there's a whole other 100% where 90% is working your ass off. And the other 10% is hopefully being smart enough to know how to put out the fires that started overnight, despite the fact that nothing changed since yesterday. And last but not least, as your business grows, the real challenge is not only learning how to manage that and what you need for that, but finding out ways of, it's not about giving up control. It's really just finding ways to find the right people and manage the right people for the right job as the business is growing with the resources that you have at your disposal. And that is really, really, really challenging. All right, last but not least, but the other thing is through all of this is the one bit of advice that I would say write down, but you don't need to write it down because it's pretty easy. The only thing you can control is risk. You're going to think your idea is great. You're probably wrong, or you're probably not as right as you think you are. It's probably not as big as you think it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Totally great. If I'm wrong, then you've got bigger problems. But the biggest thing you can mitigate, and the only thing you can mitigate is risk. So for everything that we're doing, the entire way we've grown this business is paying exquisite attention to what it's costing us and what the upside looks like. Not the upside people promise, but the most realistic assessment you can give of the probability of the money that you're spending coming back into the business profitably so you can grow the business.
Well, let's talk about these five lessons here and how
oh my God, there's 5 lessons.
how you came to the arrival of these answers, because I'm sure you didn't just pull these out of thin air. You got these from maybe making some mistakes. And
not so much making, well, I don't think of it anything as making mistakes, frankly, just because at every point we're making the best decision we can given the information we have or the beliefs that we have or the resources that we have. So we're always just doing the best we can. So hindsight and looking back and thinking of things as mistakes just doesn't do me any good. A thing that I often say, like after something does go wrong, not the way I would like it, and people say, well, because I don't give a shit about the because. I don't care what happened, other than if you can tell me something about what happened so that we know what to do differently moving forward. But first things first, let's figure out what we need to do to move forward. I don't need the excuses. Everything after because is meaningless to me at this point. So yes.
Well, so going to that, I guess hammering that point home is, you try something, you believe it's that, you're coming from the best information, informed state to make a decision. You make a decision, you roll with it, you're all in, and you get the feedback from the real world when the rubber hits the road of making those appropriate adjustments. And then while that's going on, you're not giving so much weight to, we could have done this or we could have done that.
Well, it depends on what it is. I mean, if it's something like a marketing initiative, and like, here's a really interesting example. I've been doing some testing on messaging, and there was a message that I liked, which is, I like to say, we're like natural food for your feet. It's just doing what's natural. Makes sense. But when I tested that messaging, it didn't resonate with people at all. So that's all I need to know is it didn't work. I can make some guesses about why and try a variation on a theme if I want to. But I'm talking about things like where someone really screws something up, where someone makes an undeniable error. You're going to a trade show and no one sent you the product. You're going, whatever. I mean, something that's really, or actually we're in a situation now, we've got a bunch of trade shows coming up and I'm going, did anyone book the flights yet? It's like, book the flights. I went, how did you not know to book the flights? And then people say, well, because I don't care. Book the flight, and then we got to figure out what to do to make sure this doesn't happen again. I don't give a shit about why it happened the first time. And a lot of people get uptight about that because they want to give the excuse. But a friend of mine has a great line. He goes, no one cares. You can't complain that the Slurpee is warm if you're robbing a 7-Eleven. I don't care why. I just need to know what I'm going to do about it. So I'm very forward thinking in that regard.
You know me, my fitness background, put the Slurpee down altogether. So
You get a Slurpee with Diet Coke. There's no calories.
so
Wait,
what I'm
hold on.
yeah,
I've never had a Slurpee.
okay.
So I don't even know if they're good. I have no idea.
Okay, but you've had other things.
Well, I've definitely eaten and had beverages in my past. Yeah. Never
Well,
had a job, have had food.
well, let's you've had other gigs along the way. I think even like a meditation online program.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring up the past.
No,
But,
no. It's just if I go through the list of things that I've done,
right,
we just don't have that kind of time.
right. But the part that I'm hearing that stands out, Steven, is that you have to make a lot of decisions on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And making those decisions, there you can waste, for a business owner, you can waste a lot of time on the because. You can waste a lot of time. And the key here is that you actually need to invest a lot of time. Like you say, going back to, you got to work your ass off.
Yeah.
Along with all the good luck.
What you need to know is you need to know going into anything, how you're going to tell if it's not working. That's how you mitigate risk. This is the thing that I say to people when they're trying to get my money for some marketing initiative or whatever. I do a couple things. One is I just run the numbers. I do the math. I go, all right, if you're going to charge me $1,000, I need to make $3,000 to basically break even. So let's figure out what the probability of that is. If it's an online thing, I go, for $1,000, I need 2,000 really high quality visitors to my website in order to have a high probability of breaking even. Does that seem likely? If someone says, well, we're going to send this to 500 people, I go, then it's not likely I'm going to get 2,000 good followers from this initiative. We're done. And then they try to make excuses for even hiring someone. Before they start their job, what is going to be the thing that lets me know they're the wrong person for the job? When people do ask me for that $1,000, I say, well, my only question is, how quickly and cheaply can we find out if you have your head up your butt? Which is my very fun way of A, seeing how they react to that line, and B, just saying, I don't care about, when people say to me, look, I'm really confident this is going to make you a lot of money, I say, I don't really give a shit how you feel. That's not important to me. I want to know what's going to happen if you're wrong, because you don't bat 1,000. So since you don't bat 1,000, I have to work on the assumption I'm going to be one of the failures and see what that's going to cost me. And is that an amount of money that I'm willing to spend to find out if you're wrong first?
This video is going to be repurposed for people trying to get $1,000 out of Steven.
That's cool. I'm okay with that.
So great. That really lands for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people in our audience. It's not just about, hey, what this thing's going to amazingly do for me, but if it doesn't work, can you afford the hit? Because as entrepreneurs, as you're going through different growth stages, you got to weigh out.
And that changes. And I'll tell you, one of the most challenging things for me was, as we made more and more money, is raising the bar on how much money I was willing to spend to test something. Because we're at a point now where a very small increase in performance is a very large amount of money. And so I remember at one point, Lena, my wife / co-founder, said to me, anything under $1,000, you don't need to ask my permission. Just go for it. Because she was the one handling the checkbook. And now it's kind of anything under $10,000. I don't need to ask permission. I just give it a shot, because $10,000 is a decent amount of money, but not a lot of money anymore. And again, if something does work in that regard, the impact is going to be significant. $10,000 spend that works could be $2, $3, $4 million for us.
Wow, incredible. So what's on this next landscape for you guys? Because I've witnessed you go through different evolutions, and now you've expanded your team. You've got the right people on board. You've had people from the high ups from Crocs on board. You've done a lot of different things throughout the last several years. What's happening next? Like, can we get a kind of hint of where Steven's going and where Xero Shoes is evolving? Obviously, incredible shoe line. You guys are in all the REI, or what number of different.
There's a lot of levers that we're pulling moving forward. And the way my brain works, some people, it's like pick a thing, pick a lane, go down that lane. And that's not the way my brain works. I'm the kind of guy, it's like, give me a 10-lane highway. I'm going to go down all 10 lanes and see which one is the easiest to travel. And then I'll go with that for a while. But I'm going to keep the other 9 in my back pocket or work on them on the side. I just don't do focused. I do broad and let's go, which I'm not suggesting that's the right way to do it by any stretch of the imagination. Because look, if we had one product that sold to women named Rachel who went to yoga on Thursday afternoons, I could crush that. That would be really, really easy, and I could really dominate that market. But we're just moving in a different direction. One of my lines is all businesses rise to the level of the neuroses of their founders. And so one of my little neurotic things is I just don't do pick a lane. I also don't do hierarchy. So in our company, I treat everyone like they're friends of mine, because why wouldn't they be? And if they wouldn't be, then they're probably not the right person to be working in our company. So anyone who calls me boss typically doesn't last here very long, because they have a whole idea about hierarchy that usually gets all messed up and doesn't fit. So let me start with what our mission is, if you will, or I'll say it better. Here's a line of Lena's. She says, there's enough shoe companies in the world. Nobody needs another shoe company unless your shoes change people's lives. And we literally have tens of thousands of reviews, testimonials, emails, phone calls from people who say that, because we're making footwear that's super, super comfortable, super versatile. It lets your body do what's natural. It lets your feet do what they're supposed to do. It's basically, we were talking about it on a call earlier. The null hypothesis is, if you're going to make an intervention, you have to assume that the intervention has to be better than the control. The control is walking around barefoot, which is what humans did for most of humans. And then they added a little protection and a little covering and something to hold the protection on your foot, like I mentioned before. So that's the null hypothesis. This is the intervention, the modern athletic shoe. Where's the proof that that works? Because we're just getting out of the way and going back to something close to barefoot. And the answer to that question, by the way, is there is no proof for anything they've ever said. Zero, none. Now, I know some people will argue with me, but you have to keep in mind that your argument is coming from things that big shoe companies told you thanks to their brilliant marketing. So pause on that. And by the way, every one of our almost 1 million customers had whatever doubts anyone listening might be having. Our customers originally had those doubts till they put on our shoes and had the experience, and then they got it. So what's next is really just finding more ways to give people that experience. So we have a private equity partner. We're potentially looking for additional capital so that we can do some bigger things on the marketing side that just cost more money to be able to produce the number of shoes that we would like. We keep running out of inventory every year because we haven't had enough money to buy enough inventory. We're expanding in retail internationally. We're in 470 stores around the world right now. We think that could be 1,000 by this time next year. We have a lot of pro athletes wearing our shoes. We're trying to work with some of them in fact, I got a meeting about this in 20 minutes. We're trying to work with some of them in really interesting ways. It used to be that athletes, the only thing they want to do is, you give me a bunch of money and I'll wear your product. Now they've gotten smart and realized the smarter thing to do is invest in the company, have a piece of the company, and then promote the product, because their promotion is going to raise the value for them, and that'll make them more money even after they're done as competitive athletes. So we've got baseball players, football players. We sponsor 3 Olympic teams, hockey players, which sounds crazy because they obviously don't skate in our shoes. We don't have skates, but they're saying that their feet are stronger because they're just walking in our shoes, and that's translating to when they're in their skates, when their feet can't move. What else? We're still right-sizing the organization.
Let me cut you off here for a minute, Steven. So Steven's a very polished salesman. He knows his game. For the folks that are out there that
I've been doing this a while.
What's that?
I've been doing this a while.
You've been doing this, yeah, quite some time. And I just love to, because I know we normally do like an hour call, and I'm like, we can do it in 20. Me and Steven, we'll just rip through it here. And so what are 3 detriments to the business owner, the entrepreneur like myself, who's scaling, who's expanding, who's growing? Like, what are the 3 things maybe that you would say are real critical to have like in the back of your head, tick-tocking, reminding you each day when you're making decisions, when you're whether it's evaluating people, processes, I hate to be punching out, the top P's, but what would you say is most important for those folks?
I'm gonna defer answering for the following reason. I'll tell you the story this way. I called a friend of mine who has been the CEO of multiple companies, and this is years ago. And I said, I don't feel like I'm CEO. I mean, Lena was managing operations and finance. She was, I built the car. She made sure there was gas and we had a map.
Okay.
I had a map and she made sure there was gas and tires, something like that. Suffice it to say, she was running the business. I was running the company is one way of putting it.
Okay.
And so I called my friend and said, I don't really feel like a CEO. And Lena was saying, I'm doing more of the kind of typical CEO things. And he said, well, to her, you don't want to be the face of the company. That's just not your personality. And there's different kinds of CEOs. There's operational CEOs, there's financial CEOs, there's legal CEOs, and there's product marketing CEOs. And he says to me, that's what you are. And frankly, there's fewer of them. And so then I went, oh, I get it. So I mostly just think about what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to accomplish, and what I need for doing it. So I have a map on my wall of it's the funnel of awareness, people who are unaware of what you do, aware of the problem they have, aware of a solution that they're looking for, aware that you may be a solution, aware of the product, specific product you have for them. Then they become customers. Then you want to try and make them evangelists, et cetera. And so I'm just constantly looking at that going, what do I need to do to get more people at every level of that funnel?
Okay.
The biggest thing I look for is what are the things I can do that are leverage. In other words, how can I find people who are already talking to my audience? How can I find processes that allow me to do more than, one-on-one stuff? Another thing for me is how do we pay a lot of attention to our competitors and the market because that changes on a dime sometimes. We pay a lot of attention to the money because, originally Lena used to complain. She goes, you have the easy job. You think of all the fun stuff to do. And I have the hard job of telling you we can't afford it. And so, but we have to be very attentive to all the money, to cash flow, to the balance sheet. It's like, you need to know where dragons be ahead. If like we have a thing called the February problem. We call it that because we have to pay for our product in January. It doesn't get here till the end of February. We can't sell it till March. So there's this big gap in February where money is tight. We got to make sure we can cover that. And there have been times where Lane and I didn't take a salary just to pay for a couple other people. But by and large, we're mostly past that now for a number of reasons. So paying attention to the cash is important. Leveraging your everything is important. That's the most challenging thing about hiring is finding good people who can take things off your plate at the right time. Employees want to come in and they want to go, ta-da, look what I'm doing. But they usually don't have enough knowledge to do that for months, if not years. And so at first, to leverage oneself, you're going to lose more time by getting them up to speed and managing them. And for me, that's really challenging because I'm not a managerial person. I'm just a guy who does things and I expect everyone else to do the same and to do it at my level. Completely unrealistic. Again, I've been doing this for longer than most of the people working here have been alive. And that's actually not true. Half our team is over 50. But so I don't know if I gave you 3 or 4 or 0.
Lots of good stuff there.
Okay.
Lots of good stuff there. I mean, when I'm hearing, reflecting back to you, just
But I got to add one. Sorry, before you even do it, I got to add one. You've got to pay. You or someone has to be paying a lot of attention to what your employees are thinking and feeling. For us, it's very important to be creating an opportunity, a company where people want to be here for a good reason, and they're satisfied and they're challenged and they're allowed to do things they're good at. They have opportunities for growth. The first time that someone mentioned working for us as their career, Lena and I stopped breathing because it was just stunning. We were just going about what we were doing, trying to build a company. And then other people were seeing this as, a thing they could do for their career. And was like, oh, wow, look, we didn't realize we had done that. But so I'm kind of head down, nose to the grindstone. And her job is really, she's the den mother for everyone. And I guess that would be the biggest lesson I could learn is marry Lena.
Yeah, keep the culture intact. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's really that were it not for her, this wouldn't have happened because we have very complementary skill sets and we know what each of us does well and we respect that. And we don't argue with that very much. And when we do, it's arguing about that, not arguing personally. It's in theory, I might have been able to find someone who could do what she does, but probably not. But you've got to, for some of these pieces that I'm describing, if you're not good at it, you got to find someone who is, because they're all important. Same thing with your customers. If you're not paying exquisite attention to what people are saying about you out in the real world, then you're doomed.
Yeah, so you can have a great mouth, but you have to have an extraordinary pair of eyes and ears.
Absolutely.
Always listening, always looking for opportunities.
Absolutely. Well, it's listening for the feedback. You want to hear when people are pissed. And then, because you got to know things don't always go right. And often they'll find it out before you know about it. You gotta have, and if it's not your ears, you got to have ears. Our customer happiness team, they're the front line. They're the first ones to say, hey, there's something that's going wrong with fill in the blank. And then we've got to figure out how to put out that fire.
Love it. Steven, how would people get a hold of Xero Shoes or find out about new products coming on the market? Where do they find you guys? What stores locally? Or, we have people all over listening. So
it depends on where they are. So start by going to xeroshoes.com. That's Xero shoes.com. But if you accidentally type in Zero, it'll still get to us. And then if you want to see if there's stores near you, upper right-hand corner is the store locator. Otherwise, we do most of our business online through REI, through Zappos, soon to be Nordstrom and Runner's World. I mean, a whole bunch of other Runners Warehouse running. I can't remember. And we're bringing on a whole bunch of new accounts in the next couple of weeks. But starting on our website or Amazon or rei.com is a good place to start.
Steven, thank you so much for today, for being on this conversation. I think I took a ton of notes today. I think people got a lot from, like I said, drinking from the fire hose today with you. A lot of good information, potent and real. So that I always experience that with you, and I think the audience will as well today. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Steven, for being here. Really appreciate you, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.